feels good to be a gangster. Getting food into the White House. Everything looking good to the people of the.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. I send that out to Donald J. Trump, the Trump administration, all of the Trump inner circle. Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. And I also have to quote Del Jones at least once a show. Del Jones said, real gangsters don't wear sneakers. The Mueller report then dropped not like a bomb, but like a wet noodle upon the American landscape. The fix is in, the hustle is done, and all I can say is, Americans, I have to figure out, because this quote, some quotes stick in my mind so hard that I can't seem to shake them. Like this thought crosses my mind on almost a daily basis. And the quote has been repeated by so many different philosophers and scholars and social scientists that I really am afraid to who I can attribute it to. Because I said another quote. There was a quote saying, two wrongs don't make a right, but it's damn sure make it even. And dozens of people have said that. So I said, normally I would say such a common quote. I just leave it out there. But being a victim of academic theft, of plagiarism myself, I always like to give attributions. But sometimes quotes get around so aggressively, so widespread, so well known, so beloved quotes that you can't always give attribution. So I'm just gonna say this quote. And when I said two wrongs don't make a right, damn sure make it even, quote unquote, Randy Hardgrass, everybody jumped. No, Randy Hardgrass didn't say that. This guy said it. No, this woman said it. This woman. So things get around. So I'm gonna repeat this quote, but I'm not gonna attribute it because I'm not really sure of the source. But it goes. It is impossible to underestimate the stupidity of the American populace. Just when you think intellectually that the country couldn't get any dumber, just when you think that there would be no way to surpass the collective stupidity of the American population, here comes another act of mass self-delusion that makes you like, wow, are we really that stupid? Let me run this down to you as quickly as possible because I don't want to dwell on this. Trump has an attorney general that he appointed, a known racist, a man that is an overt, open, southern, old school racist. And Trump, through his own words, provoked, and his own deeds, provoked an investigation against himself. So Trump has an attorney general. He comes under investigation. He asserts that the investigation is illegitimate. Wait. Sorry. Trying to fix something I broke. And so the attorney general is like, well, I'm implicated in these alleged crimes, so I'm going to recuse myself. And Trump said, if I had known you were going to recuse yourself, I would have never put you in that position. I would have never put you in that position if I had known you were going to recuse yourself. And you gave up oversight over this investigation that I don't want to happen, that I'm doing everything to subvert. So then Trump turns around, and remember the Republicans. Jeff Sessions was the attorney general. The Republicans stated that Jeff Sessions, if Trump, go back and look it up, because, the American populace is so damn stupid, they have very short memory spans. That's part of the American stupidity. American idiots. So he says, Jeff Sessions, if I had known you would recuse yourself from the Mueller investigation, I would have never appointed you Attorney General, and you should have told me. Because one of the things I would expect you to do as Attorney General is to protect me from investigations. So he harassed and publicly shamed this man, which isn't easy to do. To shame a racist, redneck scumbag, it's really hard because they had, what did Professor William Mackey's grandmother tell us? The bugger got no shame. White people are incapable of shame. They got no shame. It's unbelievable. But I digress. And white people take this L. I don't give a damn. Now, normally when I say white people, I give a disclaimer, but I don't give. If I talk about all the time how I was always upset how black people had this sense of collective culpability, collective, that we would hold. One black person achieves something, we all feel a sense of pride. One black person commits an atrocity, and we all feel shame. And we watch the nightly news. Every black person, and every black person ain't a black person, just like all we white people ain't white, but that's another discussion. But every real black person that had a real black upbringing and a real black experience, yes, there is a such thing as authentically black and inauthentic blackness. Whole nother discussion I ain't getting into. But what I'm saying, if you black, you feel this. Y'all would sit around waiting for the Cosby Show to come on, watching the nightly news report. And sometimes they give you little teasers for the news. And they was like, story at 8, story at 9, story at 10. And they give you a teaser. There was a shooting. There was a rape. There was a bank robbery. There was some other scandal. And we'll give you details at 10 o'clock. And black people all over America be like, oh, please don't let it be a black person. Please don't let it be a black person. Please don't let it be a black person. Because if a black person goes out and does something, then it reflects on us. It makes the people look how you're making us look. And that was on a personal family level, on a collective level. If a brother goes out and does some mass shooting, every brother that step out the front door gonna hold their head down. White boy does a mass shooting, white man steps out the door. Look, at y'all ever see that GIF from the WWE where McMahon is walking out towards the arena with his chest puffed out? They found a black cannibal in Africa. We all hold our heads in shame. We ain't been back to Africa since the white man snatched us from our home, our homeland, our only true homeland, and brought us here. But if you find a cannibal somewhere in Africa, we all like, oh, making us all look bad. They find Jeffrey Dahmer, and white people make, literally, I'm not making this up, white people make loving documentaries talking about, besides eating people, Jeffrey Dahmer was really a nice guy. That's what the guy who was hired to do a psychological evaluation on Jeffrey Dahmer said. He really liked Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer had a great personality, great sense of humor, really bright. Yeah, he ate people, but I liked the guy otherwise. The bugger's got no shame. And I used to feel bad thinking that black people, why we got to carry it like this? Why we got this sense of collective shame and this sense of collective pride? And I used to be mad about it. But now I'm having a new appreciation of it. Because now I see when you lack the capacity for collective shame, when you lack the capacity for empathy, when you have what is essentially a race, a psychopathic culture, psychopaths have the inability to make human connections. They have the inability for guilt. They have the inability for shame. And the only time they are able to feel rage, anger, or any in-depth emotion, and it's when something is directed towards them personally or individually. Where a psychopath can murder 1 million people and feel nothing. But if they get cut off in traffic on the way to kill their 1,000,001 person, they feel like a great tragedy has been committed. How could this happen? And they want all the justice that can be given to them for being cut off in traffic. And they never tie, but I don't want to get too deep into the psychopathic racial personality. We ain't got to, oh yeah, I am going to get deeper. I got my own personal story of psychopathy. But anyway, Trump fires Sessions. Trump hires William Barr, Bill Barr, to be his new attorney general. His new attorney general goes before the Congress during his confirmation hearings and perjures himself and still is appointed, but that's no big deal. Perjury, smurgery now. Now we got black people, Little Kim, they locked up Little Kim for perjury. They lock up the Queen Bee for perjury because her lying about, I don't know nothing about a shooting outside a record station, or a record station, a radio station, is less important. You know, holding some colored girl accountable for a petty lie is more important. But anyway, I continue to digress. So he purges himself. He gets on that. Now, William Barr, go look up his history, is well documented, is known for cover-up of presidential corruption. That's all he's known for. And long before all this happened, he wrote a multi-page memo. I don't know how you call it a memo if it's multiple pages. One full page is not a memo anymore. But everything's a memo now. I don't understand that. New political terminology. I got my political science degree a long time ago, like a decade ago. So whatever. It's a memo saying that he does not support the Mueller investigation. He would have never implemented the investigation. The Mueller investigation be halted immediately. He's an anti-Mueller investigation guy. So Trump fires one guy for very specific reasons and acknowledges it, which is obstruction of justice, which is a freaking crime. If there's an investigation against me right now, like let's say the feds open an investigation, like Diallo's just too awesome. He's too handsome. He's too intelligent. He's his sense of humor. He's just too good of a man. It must be something. He must be genetically engineered, some illegal genetically engineered specimen to be so perfect. And they wanted to open an investigation. And when I hear about this investigation, I start contacting various people that I know are going to be interviewed, who have been interviewed or will be interviewed. And I start trying to influence them. Like, don't talk to the feds. I can give you something to talk to the feds. Or if you're going to talk to the feds, tell them that I'm just naturally this awesome. I did nothing artificial. I didn't do any illegal engineering. That's obstruction. And even if they found out I was just born awesome, that I didn't do any illegal genetic engineering to be this awesome, I'm still going to jail. Because even if you interfere with an ongoing investigation that is seeking to disclose crimes that you have committed, and they find that you haven't committed crimes, the fact that you engaged. Remember Mystical? The man right here! The man right here! My blow is covered with roaches. Mystical was arrested again for allegedly sexually assaulting a woman and videotaping the assault. What he went to jail for, and reason he was a registered sex offender for. And they locked him up. But it looks like he might get off. But a woman who was an associated of Mystical during the investigation of the alleged sexual crime called the alleged victim and said, "Why you gotta be like that? You know he didn't do that. Why you do that, girl? You need to chill with that." And she was immediately arrested. For what? Obstruction of justice, interfering with an ongoing investigation, and she went to jail. So black women, guess what? You don't do what these white boys do. The things they will celebrate a white man and applaud a white man for doing, they will throw you under the jail for doing the exact same thing, black women. And brothers, you might want to take this advice too. Don't try to do what white folks do. If you are so integrationist, if your eyes are still on the prize of being equal with white folks, y'all have not reached the promised land. Because y'all are not equal with white people. Y'all can't commit the crimes and misdemeanors that white people commit and still get the outcomes that they get. So y'all might have to do some more Negro spiritual singing and more marching. But anyway, William Barr has a long history of being a hack, a Republican hack, to cover up presidential crimes, going all the way back to the 80s, the Iran-Contra. So the fix was in. And then the Mueller report, he comes into office and says, wrap it up, B. Wrap it up. You're done. I'm cutting your funding. I'm cutting your staff. I'm just shut it down. He was appointed for the specific reasons of shutting down the Mueller report. And Mueller, he's not a revolutionary. He's not a freedom fighter. He's a bureaucrat. And they say he's a staunch bureaucrat. He's a dedicated, but he's a bureaucrat. And the reason I like bureaucrats is because they respect protocols and hierarchy, which is necessary. You need protocols and hierarchy, chain of command, whether you are a fascist, racist, imperialist, or you're a revolutionary, anarchist, liberationist, revolutionary. Both sides need these structures. So I know imperialist bureaucracy, and there is a such thing as revolutionary structure and bureaucracy. They manifest differently, and they are formed for different purposes. So Mueller was like, oh, I'll shut it down, therefore. I shall shut it down. Yes, sir, boss. He turns the report over to Barr, who was put there for the specific purpose of squelching the thing. And then Barr puts out a summary. Not the Mueller report. Nobody knows what's in that damn report besides Mueller and his investigative team and Barr, and that's it. That's only people. Less than 24 people knows what's in that report. But Barr, who was put there for the reason of squelching, put out a memo. Not a memo, I'm sorry. The memo was when he said he was going to stop that report if he could. He put out a summary and said, oh, there was no collusion and no exoneration either. And he put it out, and everybody's like, oh, it's done. And all the maggots, the Mogoloids are out here doing the Holy Ghost dance. They out here, yeah, stinky liberals. Yeah, you stupid liberals. Ha ha. Read them and weep. Read them and weep. Dumb as hell. Y'all some idiots. And I'm not even talking about the anti-Trump. I'm talking about the pro-Trumpers. Lunacy and utter stupidity. Now, as I said before, I ain't got no tears to shed for United States having its elections interfered with. Because the Mueller investigation, allegedly, because we don't know what's in the damn thing, definitely said Russia interfered with the U.S. elections, and that interference is definitely what was to help Trump get elected. But according to Barr's summary, there was no evidence that Trump's himself had any knowledge of that effort or cooperated with that effort. Unless you just go off of his campaign streaks when he gets up there and says, I love WikiLeaks. And he said, Russia, if you're listening, Russia, if you're listening, maybe you could get the emails. Aside from that, that doesn't qualify as collusion or acquiescence. But there have been, Mueller report did bring down 30 plus indictments. Already got almost half a dozen convictions. And not only indictment, he didn't just indict individuals, their entire corporations that were indicted. And those are hashing out. And they say it's a witch hunt. And I thought it's a witch hunt only if you don't find witches. But the no collusion. Now, me, I tell y'all all the time, and I'll tell y'all again, I'm with what Dr. John Henry Clark said. We can't trust nothing no white person says. Black people, we have to have our own, what he called, We make our decisions about what went down, didn't go down, what's right and what's wrong around our kitchen tables. Forget what's said in the halls of state, federal, county governments. We sit amongst ourselves and we determine, despite what they say, this is our conclusion. These are our investigations. We take the facts and we draw our own conclusions because we are not fully American, despite what your birth certificates say. Black people are subjects of the American empire, not citizens of the United States. But I digress. But people are really stupid. And we'll get a little bit more into that. I got a couple other things I want to cover before we talk a little bit more about guerrilla warfare and move on with our lives. R. Kelly said that he was going to Dubai. I'm done with the Mueller. The only thing I got out of the Mueller report is, like I said, I don't care what the people in the power do. I'm a revolutionary, so the revolutionary, we focus on the people. As Mao Zedong said, the people are the water, the revolutionary is the fish. So I'm less concerned about what the elites do, and that goes from Trump and Obama. And you can go and become a Patreon supporter and get the Bro Diallo archives. When I started this show, was during the during the Obama administration. And I don't really care about what these people do because they're if nothing else, the elites, the parasites, they're very consistent. Whether you go back to a Roman emperor or some freaky-deaky incestuous president that we have now, they're pretty consistent in their degeneracy and their agenda to bleed the people dry and to accumulate all of the means of productions and the wealth of the people and hold it on their own. The elites have always been parasites on the masses. So they've been consistent. What has been inconsistent are the rest of us, the people, the commoners, the serfs, the peasants, the oppressed. 1 minute we can rise up, bring out the guillotine, burn it all down, bring out the machetes, bring out the Kalashnikovs and flip this thing. Or we can submit like docile sheep being led to the slaughter. So we're very inconsistent. So I don't have to pay that much attention even to the details of the elite because it's always the same. They commit crimes, they lock up the common people for committing crimes, and then they commit more horrendous crimes and get no punishment. It's all the same. They cheat, they lie, they steal, and it's a virtue. When we cheat and lie and steal, it's a horrible thing that we must be punished from. It's consistent. So I don't pay attention to what the elites do. I pay attention to how we respond to what the elites do. I want to take the pulse of the people because the people are all that matters. The people are the ones who produce the wealth. The people are the engine of history. The people are the engine of the economy. The people define reality by doing one of two things: resisting or submitting. So when Obama gets elected, Obama makes these promises, Obama proves himself to be an international war criminal, I look at the people. Because I already know what he's going to do. I look at the people and say, are the people recognizing the crimes? Are they celebrating the crimes? Do the people identify, or do they identify their fate with the elites, or are they separating the Occupy movement? Does that have any legs? Is the Occupy movement vulnerable to the elite backlash? Are black people still talking that hope and change BS from the first administration into the second? That's what I pay attention. That's all that matters, are the people. Because we are the real power in society. So all I want to know is if we're going to recognize and exercise our power, or are we going to surrender our power? But moving on. So this whole Trump thing, Trump is dirty and corrupt as all get out. And he's a racist. Everything Cohen said about Trump is true. But that matters less to me than the consciousness of the community and how the community can assess, analyze, and move on these understandings. But back to R. Kelly. When R. Kelly said he had a concert in Dubai, the first thing I did was went to Google, because I don't know these things. So I went to Google and I wanted to know if Dubai, which is located in the United Arab Emirates, if they had an extradition treaty with the U.S. Because remember when Michael Jackson was under investigation. He went to Saudi Arabia and he went to other places, and they were like, are you going to come back and stand trial? Yeah, I can go look that up too. Michael Jackson ran out to the Middle East when he was accused of engaging in illicit acts with underage children. So when he said he had a concert in Dubai and he only wanted to go to do the concert in Dubai so he could earn a little money to pay off his child support and pay his growing legal fees. First thing I did, I go to Google and said, does the UAE have an extradition treaty with the United States? And it turns out, no, they don't. So if you commit a crime, no matter how horrendous, and you can make it to the UAE, or if you can make it to the Congo, and there's several other places that if you can make it to, Russia, that's Edward Snowden. And you ain't even got to make it to the damn country. If you can make it to the embassy of some of these countries, ask Julian Assange, then you home free. You are home free. So I really believe that if he was given or is given permission to go to Dubai, that'd be it. There's another guy, I think his name is Roman Polanski. Is that it? Let me see it. I just want to come. Because Roman Polanski. Yes. There's this white guy that, the What About gang. If you don't know about the What About gang, then you're just not a dedicated Bro Diallo show listener. Well, no, I just brought this. But Roman Polanski, who's a foreign citizen but a celebrated Jewish filmmaker, raped, I think, a 14-year-old girl, brutally raped a 14-year-old girl. A 13-year-old girl. He drugged her and raped her, and he ran. He absconded. And he ran to some places in Europe. I'm not sure where, but wherever he went, there was no extradition. And he's wanted in California right now. He's been wanted since 1978, and he has escaped justice. And I really believe he's an international fugitive. Now, of course, he's a white man, so he gets Academy Awards, and he walks the red carpet, and lives a damn good life as a public citizen. And even every time there's a president, he thought that Clinton was going to give him a pardon. And I think Clinton was thinking about pardoning him. But then, the backlash became, because Clinton is a racist. Bill Clinton is a racist, but that's not what I meant to say. I meant to say Clinton is a rapist. Bill Clinton is a sexual assault. But Bill Clinton is nice with it. He's smooth with it. Bill Clinton is a vagina grabber too. He's just not stupid enough like Trump to brag about grabbing vaginas, sexually assaulting women on a hot microphone. So Trump is not much worse than Clinton, just less polished. Remember, both of them represent the iron fist. But as I said, the day after Trump was elected, Trump has removed the velvet glove from the iron fist, so there's no more room for illusion. He has stripped America raw, booty, butt naked. Or as wise intelligence would say, butt naked, booty blessed. But moving on. So I believe that R. Kelly tried to make a run for it. And real talk, officials in Dubai said there was no concert scheduled. That is an absolute lie. And to me, I think that he should be taken, his bail should be revoked, and he should be taken into custody. Because to me, that was a blatant attempt to flee. That was a blatant attempt to flee on R. Kelly's part. But you can look it up. Extradition. He wanted to go to Dubai because he was going to duck out on them charges. He was running. Now, normally, I'm like, run, Jesse, run. I ain't nothing I want more than a black man to run away and escape justice. But terms and conditions apply. When Assata ran to Cuba, I celebrate Assata's run to Cuba, whether she's guilty or not, which I don't think she's guilty. When Pete O'Neill made his way out of America and went into Africa, I celebrate that. So now I am happy when a slave runs away from the plantation and the paddle rollers can't catch him. I celebrate that. Under one condition. that African, that black man and or woman did not target and was not predatory towards other oppressed people. It's like Neely Fuller said in the Code System and Concept to Defeat Global White Supremacy. He said, if you are an oppressed person, it is your obligation to advance justice. So if your crime is just, meaning that whatever crime you committed against people higher on the scale, on the socio-economic, on the racial, on the political scale than you, if you committed a ascending crime, you stole from a corporation, you stole from a bank, you fought against the oppressive forces of the U.S. Police Department, whatever way, and you get away, I'm applauding. But if you preyed on other oppressed people, on children, on other vulnerable populations, then I have to wash my hands of you. A little more on that. Speaking about washing my hands of someone, Shaquille O'Neal is now the newest paid mascot for Papa John's Pizza. Papa MAGA John's Pizza. Racist, anti-black. And it's not even in the negotiation, they were like, yeah, we got some bad press. And we hate black people, but you know, what we hate more than black people is losing profits. That's the only thing these white multinational corporations, these white nationalist capitalists hate more than black people is losing profits. So if they have to pander to blacks to sustain profits, they'll do it. And fortunately for them, there's always some, I never get it right. I'm going to have to go watch my old Khalid Muhammad. Some buck dancing, what did he say? Some boot licking, buck dancing, handkerchief head, sniveling, shuffling, Uncle Tom. Always are able to find one. They're always able to find one or two or three or a million black people who have no integrity, no self-respect, no loyalty to the race, no honor of our ancestors, no concern or true love for our descendants, that's going to come and help the white man. And no matter the outcome for black people. Now, it's real curious to me because Shaq is rich AF. Shaq is one of the wealthiest ex-pro athletes in the world. And Shaq also has a PhD. He's not a stupid man. Nor is he a man in any need that ever has to work again. Now he's already selling us icy hot. Get you icy hot. And he's selling us, you know, cut rate auto insurance. Get your insurance. Insurance. You've got more endorsements. You're on like, what's that, ESPN? In basketball. Charles Barkley. Basketball. You got viral videos doing the gorilla dab, saying white people come up to you and say you look like a gorilla. And then you say every time you go to the zoo, all the gorillas are attracted to you. And so out of this attraction you feel, and look, when you go to the zoo, the gorillas being attracted to you, and white people saying you look like a gorilla, you decide to do the gorilla dab challenge. Shaq, I ain't forgot. Everybody else forget. I don't forget. I might forget important stuff, like my anniversary, but I don't forget coonery. Sorry, Erica. It's not on purpose. It's just how my mind works. Anyway, you come up with this dance called the gorilla dab. And then you get on national TV and you start beating your chest and whooping like a gorilla. And then you challenge all other little black boys to say, hey, it's the gorilla dab challenge. Lord have mercy. How much is enough, Shaq? I'm going to start saving my money. I got a jar of coins on top of one of my bookshelves. I'm going to see how much is in there. Because this Negro's for sale. Black, hey, let's save up some money to buy back Shaq. Shaq been on the auction box and been bought and traded by white men for so long, he really don't even know Somebody go read that man the copy of the Emancipation Proclamation. Somebody hashtag or tag him a link to the 13th and 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. This dude's still for sale. It blows my mind. It's like, I'm at a loss for words. It's like when Paul Mooney was like, I don't understand these black people. He said, I remember when MC Hammer was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. At the height of his popularity, he was dancing for popcorn chicken and was doing the hammer dance and threw the popcorn chicken up, twirled, and did a jig, and then caught the chicken in his mouth. And the commercial, they were like, Hammer, we got to go on stage. And it's millions of people out there screaming, Hammer, Hammer, come on, Hammer, we want to see Hammer. And Hammer's like, I don't give a damn. There's fried chicken here. No work can be done while there's chicken present. So he eats the chicken before he could go out and perform for the people. And Paul Mooney said, which I'm thinking now, how does that negotiation even go? He's like, if somebody come and say, boy, we want you to dance for some chicken, throw it up and catch it in your mouth, I would have stabbed somebody. I would have been in jail. Just how do white people even bring it up? Like Hammer or Shaq. And the PR firm is like going through the Rolodex and calling Shaq's handlers and say, listen, we got a proposal. Can you open the cage and let the gorilla out? We have a proposal. And don't get mad at me for calling Shaq a gorilla. He's proud of that. Go look up the gorilla dab dance. And he comes to the table. Like, how do you even fix your mouth to start saying the words that come together and string together the thought? Boy, we want you to, we had some trouble with the colors. We've got some bad PR, and the colored folks and the dirty stinking immigrants and the mud people, everybody's all the subhuman races are pissed off at us. So we figure if we can get one nigga to calm down the other niggas, we want you to be the new mascot for Papa John Pizza. This dude is like 8 feet tall. Why do you roar? You a gorilla? Why don't you go King Kong? Flip over the table. It's like, nah, instead of being the mascot for Papa John's, people tell you, I'm going to buy a controlling interest in the stock. I'm going to get rid of the board. I'm going to start my own independent pizza, Gorilla Pizza, and I'm going to put you out of business. The kind of moves that get you in the history books. The kind of moves that get you put on T-shirts. Get your image put on T-shirts. But he's like, oh, yeah, son. Does he sign his name or does he just put a paw print? Shaq? And you should know better. And that's another thing. Shaq knows better. Some of these athletes don't know nothing about how to chase balls. They chase ball machines. But apparently, all I've heard, and I have to admit, I've never watched Shaq play basketball. I don't watch ball chasing. And this is one part of the reason why I don't watch the ball chasers. This is part of the reason why. And then here's something else. Claude Anderson said this almost 30 years ago. When he started his Powernomics campaign, and he said first thing he went to was the black athletes and black celebrities. Because the black athletes have both name recognition and money. And he needed money and he needed recognition for his Powernomics campaign. And he said he went to the basketball players. He said he went to all the celebrated black people and said, listen, I got this Powernomics campaign. And I wrote a book on it. I laid it out. It's nothing hidden. It's nothing. It's a straight out political economic campaign for self-reparations, essentially. And he said all of these athletes were like, this is a wonderful idea, but I can't give it to you. I can't help you. He said all of the rappers, all of the actors, all of the public personalities, all of the wealthy black people was like, this is the bomb. Really, And he said, they all said, but good luck with that because I can't help you. And he said, why? And he said, the athletes to a person, the Shaquille O'Neals, the Michael Jordan said to a person, it's too black. I can't give to something that's too black. And he said, and he's on tape, this is Claude Anderson said, I said to them, I never heard of anything being too white, being too gay, being too Christian, being too Muslim. He said that black people, our wealthy black people, give their money and their causes to all these other causes. We know Michael Jackson, at the height of his fame, he went to Bosnia. He went to little Croatian orphanages. He went all over the world helping everybody but black people. All he did was give us some entertainment, but the entertainment we got from Michael Jackson was a byproduct of the entertainment he gave white folks. And hey, get mad if you want. Y'all can have Michael Jackson wash my hands. That's what we used to say. Now we say cancel. Back in my day, we say I wash my hands of you. I'm done. But he said these black celebrities don't give to black causes. They don't want to be associated as black. They don't want to be seen as too black, because if they're too black, then they think they're going to lose their white audience, who really is the source of their wealth. White wealthy people are still dependent on white people as poor blacks. More so. Look at Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre played himself. Dr. Dre's daughter got into UIC, and he put on Instagram, my daughter got into UIC of her own merits, trying to make fun of those white women who did all that dirt, who are under federal indictment for cheating and scamming their way into these prestigious schools. And of course, the fact that Dr. Dre gave $70 million to UIC and even has a building named after him, he believes that giving $70 million to UIC and having a whole campus building named after Dr. Dre had nothing to do with his daughter's admittance. I mean, these, and I'm like, wow, 70 million? And every black kid I know in the hood has on Beats by Dre headphones. I think my son is the only black kid in the hood that don't have on Beats by Dre. When I go to the gym to work out, every black person got on Beats by Dre headphones. I don't see it as much with white folks. Every black person I know. You hear about Michael Jordan giving money to flood victims in Redneckistan, even though NPR put out a report stating that white people get more relief funds and recover faster than black people because they got more relief, more money from the government, more sympathy from their employers when they go through a tragedy. And Jordan gave money to them rednecks who wouldn't let him, if they saw him walking down the street, they called the police on him. Jordan, Shaq, and all of your beloved celebrities, all of your hashtag black excellent people give more money, time, resources, and values to white people's causes, white people that don't even need the money, than they do to us. But don't worry, because we don't need white celebrity money, because the government's going to give us our reparation. Then we'll all be Shaqs. And we could all be mascots for racist white corporations. And we could all give big money to white institutions. We could all be rich niggas. Ugh. Disgusting. Moving on, man. Let's get there. There's something else I wanted to say. As of today, America's a little bit safer. I read in the Chicago Tribune, on the Sunday Tribune, they had a major story, front page story. I don't know if it was the front page. It was somewhere major, below the fold, that bump stocks, the Trump administration, which is crazy. This is crazy. Bump stocks have been banned. The Trump administration, the Republican Congress and Senate, have, after the Las Vegas shooter, he used bump stock. And a bump stock is a stock, the shoulder brace, that you can attach to a semi-automatic rifle. that will turn a semi-automatic rifle into an automatic rifle, which is not legal under the assault weapons ban. What's really curious, if you look at the last almost half century of gun regulations, it's been primarily Republicans who have implemented gun regulations because Democrats are too scared of white people to even touch gun regulations. So Democrats give lip service to it. So the Trump administration said, that's it for bump stocks. And the assault weapon ban, which came under Reagan, was lifted by the second George Bush. And white people are pissed. White boys are mad that they can't have their bump stocks. That's the one government regulation for the first time since Trump has taken office. You have mass white male conservative outrage. Now, when Trump said, I'm going to allow coal plants and other polluting industries to dump more toxins, heavy metals, phthalates, mercury, I'm going to allow more and more pollutants to be dumped into the air, the water, and on land. White men were like, God bless America. Make America great again. They didn't get mad. When Trump gave over $1 trillion in tax breaks to rich people and banks, multinational corporations, the white boys make America great again. Yeehaw! They didn't get mad. They're celebrating like, yeah. When Trump lied and said Mexico's going to pay for the wall, and then flipped on them and was like, no, American taxpayers are going to pay for the wall. And nothing white conservatives hate more than government handouts, government programs, government infrastructure. Now, Trump could, being the real true capitalist that he is, he could sell bonds. He could make it a public-private partnership or totally privatize. He could give the land over to private companies to build the wall. But no, he's asking for taxes to build the wall. And they're, yeehaw! That violates their, and Trump has increased the deficit. Trump, the trade deficits have gone up under Trump. All these things Republicans, when Democrats are in office, things that Republicans pretend to care about happen. They say nothing. But then Trump turns around and says, no bump stocks. God damn it, that's it. That's it. That's where they draw the line. I can't use this instrument of mass murder. And I love how, and even some black people are dumb enough to talk this stuff about liberty. The Second Amendment of rights are about liberty. And I'm like, white people, y'all have had Second Amendment rights since 1776. Since, not 19, not 18, since 1776, white people have had the Second Amendment. Between 1776 and the year 2019, there have literally been thousands of instances where state actors, where local states or the federal government or local jurisdictions have violated the civil rights, the property rights of common citizens. And not one time do I know of that white red-blooded Americans have used their Second Amendment rights to fight government tyranny. When? Where? Show me where the Second Amendment rights were used to fight government tyranny. A bunch of stupid right-wingers went up to Montana and took over a federal building. And they said, this is a call. They put out a call for all Americans. They said, this is where liberty's last stand. Wait, what is that, Montana? Oh, no, that's the Montana. The Bundy standoff. They said, this is a liberty's last stand. And about over 100 million white men, 100 million, white men with guns. Less than 24 showed up. And then those 24 sat in there drinking beer and talking trash, listening to Randy Travis. And then when the cops said, this is enough, bring your asses out of here, they came out. And one of them, out of all of them, there was one white dude that got shot and killed by federal agents. He says, I will not submit. And when the police came to violate his liberty, this one individual white man stood up and got his brains blown out on tape. That's it. One white man out of 100 million gun owners who have guns to fight government tyranny. One out of 100 million. And then they ain't got it in. Remember Waco, Texas? Remember Ruby Ridge? Even the Bundy Ranch? All this stuff white men talk about. They ain't got guns to fight government tyranny. Number one, white men love government tyranny. They love it. They vote for the most tyrannical, fascist politicians in America. So how the hell you tell me you got your Second Amendment right because you don't want government overreach? What is the number one source? When a government becomes tyrannical, what are the two institutions of the government that they use in order to impose tyranny on the people? It ain't welfare. See, look at what the right-wing conservative white people hate. I hate the welfare. I hate housing and urban development. Social programs. I hate academia. We put too much money in these damn schools, these liberal academics. They don't send professors when they want to impose tyranny on you, red-blooded white American, God-fearing American. They're not going to send professors. They're not going to send social workers. They're not going to send nurses. You hate single-payer health care. That's socialism. I want the freedom to die broke. So these same white men that swear they need guns to fight government tyranny, and then you ask them, where does government tyranny come from? From the homosexuals? There is no agency called homosexual agency. So even if the homosexuals want to bring tyranny on you, and they want a man to use a woman's bathroom and a woman to use a man's bathroom, even if that's the case, I'll give you all of that. Yes, the homosexual agenda, tyranny, godless, you can't say Merry Christmas, you say happy. Even then, where is the tyranny going to, how will it be imposed? Through what apparatus? And I don't care if it's the Russian oligarchs, the Latin American juntas and dictators. I don't care if it's some African neo-colonial puppet regime. Every single government that when they want to impose tyranny and take away the people's liberty, use two agencies, the local police and the national military. And you look at all these gun-toting, God-fearing, red-blooded Americans, what do they love more than the damn police and the military? If you are really about the Second Amendment and you are really saying, I want to protect my liberty, then red-blooded, right-wing, conservative Americans should be anti-military and anti-police. But of all the government agencies, the Department of Education, the IRS, the freaking EPA, you name all these other government agencies they hate. But the two government agencies are not only the two that are the most likely to take away their liberty, they are the ones that drain the most of their tax dollars. You hear these rednecks, oh, welfare, I'm paying for this no good but having babies, and I don't want to pay the welfare. And for every dollar you spend, your tax dollar that goes to welfare, there's over $15,000 that goes to bombs and aircraft carriers. So they are stupid. And didn't I start off saying Americans are stupid as hell? So these white people don't want guns. They're not mad that and then that's another thing. They kept saying Obama didn't confiscate one gun. Obama didn't pass one line of gun reform or gun buybacks, and the whole time they said Obama's taking our weapons. Obama didn't take their weapons. Clinton didn't take their weapons. Carter didn't take their weapons, but Trump is taking their weapons. And Trump didn't even bother to make it a law. He just made it an edict. He didn't even follow the Constitution. Ronald Reagan, their beloved Saint Ronald Reagan, took away their guns. White racists are stupid as hell. I've never met a halfway. No, let me not lie. There's a lot of really brilliant racists, but the rank and file masses of racists are dumb as dirt, and I don't understand it. So there's over 500,000 bump stocks, and that's the official number of bump stocks in the country. And they saying you got to either destroy your bump stocks, that's the hustle. Because remember, during the assault weapons ban imposed by a Republican administration, damn, let this siren go. All right, people were grandfathered in. You could not sell any new assault weapons to Americans, but anybody who already had an assault weapons, i.e., all the white men, were allowed to keep their assault weapons. They just couldn't sell anymore. Imposed by a Republican administration. Now, the bump stocks, they're not doing this. Trump said, even if you paid for it, and they're not offering compensation. You know, the gun buybacks, like they do in the hood. They were like, we ain't giving you a damn dime. We ain't allotting no money to buy back these bump stocks. You turn it in or you destroy it. But the destroy it is the wink and the nod. Destroy it means put it in a safe. Hide it under your bed. Put it in your trunk, lock safe. Hide it away. Bury it in your gun safe. But they're saying if you're caught, that's a felony. 5 years in federal prison, fed time, and over $5,000 to $25,000 fine. And they had this white boy in the newspaper that was like, I don't think they should take my weapon away because I'm a law-abiding citizen. And the journalist who interviewed this redneck didn't even say to him, if you're a law-abiding citizen, then bump stocks are against the law. So are you law-abiding or not? So this guy says he's going to break the law because he's a law-abiding citizen, so he should be able to pick and choose the laws he wants to abide by, which is what white people always do. I'm lawful, but you're breaking this law. Well, that's not a good law. I obey all good laws. And that's it. That's psychopathy. They're psychopaths. They're crazy. And that makes sense in their heads. It's like when the Trump campaign manager, Paul Manafort, was sentenced, and he was supposed to get 25, do some hard time, decades in jail, and he got he's going to do about less than 5 years for high crimes, major felonies, treason almost. And the judge said, essentially, well, I'm not going to sentence him to the maximum that I could sentence. I'm going to give him a light sentence. And the reason I'm going to give this man a light sentence is, before he was a criminal, he was innocent. He was a law-abiding man until he became a criminal. Which that applies to every criminal in the world, as far as I know. Until you break the law, you're law-abiding, right? But he said he's lived a life of a wholesome, good life. He wasn't a criminal his whole life. He was only a criminal when he started committing crimes. And in order to reward him for not being a criminal up until the moment he started committing crimes, I'm going to give him a lighter sentence. White folks crazy. Yeah, I'm saying it. And I know y'all don't like me saying it, but imagine watching y'all doing it. Imagine people. I'm supposed to go to bed every night knowing that the people with this type of mentality have not only control over the global economy, but have a control over the largest stockpile of nuclear weapons ever invented. I got to go to sleep knowing that people, a culture, a race of people with this kind of reasoning have absolute power and control over planet Earth. And if I got to live with that, you can live with me saying indiscriminately, white folks is crazy. And I just heard something that never occurred to me before. The great journalist Robert Scheer said that we need Nuremberg trials to come to America. And I totally agree. I can't get into that because time is not on my side. And I want to talk about guerrilla warfare. Maybe we could talk about American Nuremberg trials. And if there was a true and just and honest Nuremberg trial, every living president would be incarcerated right now. But I digress. Guerrilla warfare. White people, whenever throughout history, first of all, in white society, in white history, every majority population in all their civilizations has embarked on a genocide campaign against minority populations. Black people have been under an ongoing genocide campaign since the Emancipation Proclamation. Throughout chattel enslavement, there was a deliberate effort to increase and expand the population of black people in the United States because black people were the most valuable commodity. Again, let's go back. If you read Dr. Claude Anderson, White Labor, Black Wealth, we find that black people were the most valuable asset in the antebellum South and in the North. And whether you owned a plantation or you just owned stocks or you just owned a company that insured the slave ship, we were the most sought after natural resource. Land, literally, everybody talk about real estate, make money in real estate. During the era of chattel slavery, land had no value unless you put a slave on it. That's what Claude Anderson said. Land had no value unless you put a slave on it. That's why they were allowing a white man could walk out into an empty space and do a sit-down deed. You drive a stake. They say you go anywhere in this world, you can get 100 acres. When the railroad system was being set up through welfare, these rich white rail barons, they said when you set up a rail line, you can have all the land from 100 acres on each side. The American government was just giving land away. And Abraham Lincoln, after World War II, and many of the other presidents said, it will take us generations to settle this land, to spread across this land like a cancerous virus. Because the land was so vast and so untamed and so rich, but they did a really good job. Go look up the Dust Bowl in destroying the ecology, killing off all of the large species, the large herbivores and the large predators. This land has been Euro-sized. It's being purged. But I digress. Black people were very valuable at one point. After we were freed and they could no longer coerce our labor, there was a reversal of policies. Initially, the policy was they would breed black people like livestock. But once we had rights, once we had specific constitutional amendments, once we had the ability to compete fairly with white people reversed their position on the number of black people. They went from wanting us to breed and expand our numbers to deliberately doing all they could to make sure we reduced our numbers. And it's ironic that Dr. Claude Anderson has now become a hero to the ADOS movement. Because in the late 90s, Claude Anderson said, one of the ways that white people harmed black people was by restricting black African immigration to the United States. He said white people saw us as a national security threat. Since the day we got off the plantation, even before, but we have been identified, black people have been identified as a national security threat. And white people thought that one of the best ways to reduce this threat was to make sure that the black population, our number or percentage within the overall population, is sustained at a minority status. Below, really they want us at 10%, but anything below 15%. When we start getting above and beyond towards 15% and our population starts growing, they feel threatened. That we can start establishing economic and political enclaves or blocks to challenge white authority and white power. So one of the things they did after the Civil War was open up the floodgates of migration. And they said they allowed white people to come. Initially, they wanted white people from North Northern Europe, Scandinavia, Great Britain. They wanted Germans. They got a lot of Germans here. One of the largest white ethnic groups in this country, Germans. After the good, pure whites, the French, the Germans, the Norwegians, the Finnish, the Dutch, and of course the British, that wasn't enough. Not enough of them were coming. So then they had to open it up to the lower rung white people, the Irish, the Spanish, the Italians, gross, the Greeks, gross, and then they had to go to Eastern Europe, the Slavic white people, the Polish, the Ukrainians. Now, again, you can get mad at me. How are you calling lesser people less than human? I didn't make these classifications. I didn't create the ethnic conflicts and the ethnic divisions amongst white folks. I'm a victim of that same type of psychopathy. I don't get mad at me for identifying it. But Dr. Claude Anderson said white people used integration and used immigration to bolster their numbers and to solidify their hold on power and wealth. And he said at the same time they opened up the floodgates of immigration from Europe, they shut down immigration from Africa and the Caribbean. And he said another source of the Latino, he said that the Latinos were surpassing us. And he said one of the reasons why the Latinos are surpassing us is because of Latin American immigration. That American Latinx, Hispanics, couldn't stand on their own. One of their greatest assets is that Latinos from Mexico, Panama, Dominican Republic, Honduras, Chile, Brazil, Colombia, they all come here to America. So Dr. Claude Anderson realized how having your people immigrate from foreign lands is an asset to everybody. But then he said what hurt black people, one of the reasons why black people are at such an economic and political and social deficit is that for generations, Africans were not allowed to migrate here in the numbers. And if Africans had been allowed to migrate here in the numbers that Europeans and Mexicans were, we'd have better standing and be in a better, stronger position to compete. So it's extremely ironic now that you got people like Tariq Nasheed, ADOS, going to call Claude, quoting Claude Anderson. He even has a selfie that he recently took about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago with Claude Anderson. And I don't know if Claude Anderson has gone against this, if he's changed his analysis or not. But this was a central part of bringing black people to immigrate from other parts of the world, and even having Africans migrate from the United States, migrate to other parts of the world in order to strengthen our ties and engage in what he called. Now, I don't agree with Claude Anderson on a lot of things. I don't think we should compete with white people. I always say, never enter a feces eating contest. I don't say feces, I say the S word, shite. You never enter a feces eating contest with a feces eater. The reason you don't enter a feces eating contest with a feces eater, because even if you win, you lost. Even through winning, you lose. You lose, and you win, you still lose. So I don't want to compete with white people with raping the world's ecosystems. I don't want to compete with white people in a mad dash to accumulate as much fiat in the world while the life-sustaining capacity of the planet is destroyed. I would like to compete in opposition against white people, against imperialism, against occupation, against, I'd like to compete against oppression and genocide, but I don't want to compete in fiat, mass fiat accumulation, and all of the destructiveness that is engaged in through the process of mass fiat accumulation. So I'm not against competition. But I don't want to enter. If I see a competition and I see, well, this is a competition, a race for liberation, a competition of race, liberation versus oppression, and this is a competition of who can eat the most feces, I'm going. Even if I have a lower chance of winning the oppression versus liberation struggle, that's the struggle I'm joining. So black people have been under a persistent campaign, a successful campaign of genocide. And what we don't understand about genocide, as even white people define, genocide has several objectives. It is not just about extermination. Now that is often what, if it's not a campaign of obliteration, we think it's not genocide. It is also genocide to target a population for population reduction, to saying it's too many, to lower the population to a controllable level. It is also genocide to try to sustain a people at a low level of a population. Any insidious, unjust means to exterminate a population, to reduce a population, or sustain a population where it is. All of those are acts of genocide if you're targeting us people based on their phenotype, their genes, the things that manifest through their genetic code. Now, for some reason, the UN, white people, have also included religion and ethnicity into this genocide thing. Now, I don't understand that. Now, I know there's ethnocide, but a religion, if I say I want to kill all the Christians, I really don't need to kill people to kill Christianity. I would attack the institutions like they do in China. You bulldoze the churches, you burn the Bibles, and then you start the young children on an anti-Christian indoctrination. That's how you kill all the Christians. That's how you get rid of Christianity. That's how you get rid of the Jews. But what's generally going to happen is every time somebody converts to Christianity, like Hitler said he wanted to kill the Jews, but I could convert to Judaism tomorrow. I could convert to Islam. I was born a Christian. I was baptized and raised a Christian. So I'm not sure how that really works. Genocide and religion. You can commit genocide against a religious group unless a particular ethnic or religious group adheres to a particular religion. You know. So if I said I want to kill all of the, if I lived, let's say, per se, in China, and I want to kill all the Muslims in China, well, there's a very small group called Uyghurs, of ethnic Chinese Muslims. But those Uyghurs tomorrow could convert to Christianity. And then what are you doing? You still going to kill the Uyghurs or what? Well, I don't know. Oh, hell, all the Palestinians, which if it was me, because all that stuff is fake. I don't know why. I know why. I understand. This isn't really funny. But theoretically, all of the Palestinians could convert to Judaism and have full rights in their land. It's not really a realistic thing, but just, speaking speculatively, just showing you the fluidity. Many Jews, there's a book called An Empire of Their Own. And in the empire of their own, a lot of Jews came here and there was Jewish discrimination. And they just said, I'm going to stop being Jewish. I'm either going to celebrate and recognize the Jewish holidays and practice the Jewish faith in secret, or I'm just going to be secular, or I'm going to be a Christian. And that's how it goes. And a lot of, my name is Rubenstein. And I'll change my name, or they change their name. If your name was Rubenstein, you might change your name to Roberts. I'm David Rubenstein. Oh, just come to America, change my name to David Roberts. And that's it. Come to America, my name is Joseph Steinberg. I just changed my name to Joseph Stevens. And that's it. And this happens so commonly, and nobody would know. There was a scholar by the name of Riggs. who thought he was a red-blooded Christian Yankee Doodle American. And then he found out his family, his lineage was Jewish. He was like, wait, what do you mean Jewish? We're red-blooded, cowboy, yeehaw, conservative, Christian, evangelical white people. How the hell am I a Jew? He also wrote a really good book called Hitler's Jewish Soldiers that showed there were a lot of Jewish people that all of a sudden became Nazis. So anyway, that's what is curious about genocide. But I digress. Power is the ability to define reality and have it, reality and have it act in a desired manner. So they have power. So they can say, okay, killing a religion is genocide too. But black people have been under a consistent campaign of genocide in the United States. The genocide has been, in some regions, a campaign of extermination, meaning that they did not want, it was regional extermination, which means they don't want black people in certain areas, especially very economically viable areas, where we could be an impediment to white agendas or a competitor to white progress. So what they would do was purge and run black people off. And there are sections of this country throughout the South that once had majority black population that have almost zero black population. And now the reverse has happened. We didn't come to the South looking for a better life. We came from the South to the North. We came from the South to the North because there was a ethnic cleansing. There was a purge of black people off of the agricultural land. They wanted to steal our wealth, and they did it, over $1 trillion. And this is after slavery, that they took over $1 trillion, talking about giving $1 billion or $2 billion. They done stole well over trillions of dollars from black people. State, local governments, private industries have cheated or stolen over $1 trillion worth of wealth for black people since slavery. And we talking about reparations for slavery is less than $1 trillion. So they have purged us. They have sought to exterminate us in certain areas and to limit our growth, to limit our number, our numerical percentage in other places. But it all qualifies as genocide. This isn't even my definition, because I know some random raggedy black man in the south side of Chicago, y'all not going to listen to me. But you can listen to Almighty Whitey said it. This is his definition. So, black people, knowing that we've been under a campaign of genocide, that we are a minority in this country, not because God willed it, but because of specific policies of the U.S. government to make us a minority. And the reason they want to keep us a minority is because, going back to Claude Anderson, they want to keep us non-competitive. And they want to keep us non-competitive is because they want to keep us vulnerable. And they want to keep us non-competitive and thus vulnerable because they want to be able to impose their will on us. And their will might be exploitation. Their will sometimes is to give us minor reforms and opportunities. Or their will could one day very soon switch to extermination, all-out extermination, or expulsion, ethnic cleansing. And what we've observed throughout European history, when they are in the majority and they have power, generally what always happens is the white masses are exploited, abused, and rendered desperate by the white elite. And when the white elite hyper-exploit the white masses begin to attack vulnerable minorities within their population and blame them for the trials and tribulations imposed on them by the white elites. It happens all the time in American history and throughout European Western civilization. So as white people become more desperate, black people become more endangered. Not because we've done anything to them, not because any of their problems can be attributed to black people. And then black people, what we have often done is that when white people begin their scapegoating, white people are losing their minds but they're also losing their income. They're losing their standing, their psychological. They have both ego, emotional, psychological, and material deficits that they are not familiar with. Now, we don't recognize this because the average white person has more than quadruple the wealth of the average black person. But the thing is, white people can dish it, but they can't take it. So black people, you live your whole life targeted by the police, in substandard housing, substandard schools, inadequate pay, being mocked and ridiculed and blamed for everything. And we learn to deal with it through art, through humor, through mutual support, through smoking crack and losing our damn minds sometimes. But we carry it well. And white people get an infinitesimal taste of the stress that black people have lived with for generations. They lose it. They start doing mass shootings. They start streaking. You should go read Francis Cress Welsing chapter on streaking. They mobilize and go off to the Middle East and commit genocide in the Middle East, killing millions of Middle Easterners who did nothing to them. They go down to the southern border long before Trump. Under the Obama, George Bush, Clinton, and George Bush and Reagan era, you had white militias literally hunting immigrants on the southern border. And a lot of times in these orgies of atrocities and murder, black people join with them. You got black people right now talking about, yeah, built the wall. These immigrants. And I tell you, you got black people, yeah, kill, bomb those terrorists. Let me tell you something, black people. There has not been one atrocities that whites commit overseas that black people in this country have not been exempt from. Not one. Everything they do overseas, they do here. You look down in World War II and biochemical warfare. They in Vietnam, dropping mustard gas. They're in Cuba, poisoning the soil, poisoning the livestock. And they're right here in Tuskegee. They're dumping chemicals right on the south side of Chicago. We got all these unclean, contaminated Superfund sites. Everything they do to black and brown people overseas, they come here and do it to us. Sometimes our communities are the laboratory for tactics to suppress other people. So they learn how to suppress through psychological warfare tactics, how to render a whole generation of black people politically impotent, intellectually dormant. And then they go overseas to the neo-colonies and say, listen, this is what worked in South Central Los Angeles. This is what worked in Atlanta. This is how we control. So you can maybe use these tactics to suppress your population, to make them ripe for exploitation. So we have a genocidal imperialist government over us. We have a majority white population that has had a long history of enthusiastically committing genocide, atrocities, ethnic cleansing against us. We have never been safe in this country. We have never been secure in this country. And it doesn't matter what's written in the Constitution. It doesn't matter what's written in the Penal Code. Even when they write laws to protect us, the anti-lynching laws that they write. And then who gets convicted of lynching? A young black progressive activist gets arrested and charged with felony lynching. The hate crimes legislation. They locking black people up for hate crimes, for defending themselves from white racists. Even on an international level, the first man ever convicted of genocide, of the crime of genocide, was an African. Not a German, not a Brit, not a Frenchman, not an American general, but a black African was the first person ever formally charged and convicted of genocide in human history. So even when we get what we perceive to be favorable legislation, it don't matter what laws are on the book. It matters who enforces the laws. It doesn't matter who casts the votes. It matters who counts the votes. So even understanding all of that, We are in a very vulnerable, precarious position. We're not safe around these dudes. But we know we're a minority. We know we are don't have the material resources. You got US congressmen going on Twitter talking about we got 1 trillion bullets in white America, in the white South. So whether you like it or not, you're going to do, we are not safe. So the only thing that will protect us is for us first to politicize our communities, revolutionize our agendas, and weaponize our culture. And we cannot do a direct head-up confrontation with the oppressors. We have to implement what is called guerrilla warfare, or what is called in a more formal sense, what they call asymmetric warfare. And I know y'all don't like this term warfare. I know it's a scary word. And here I am on the worldwide internet, on an AM radio station, and I'm speaking directly about warfare and race war. But I don't speak about warfare and race war as a proponent of it. I speak as an ongoing victim of it. I speak as a direct victim of the war on some of the most pernicious policies ever implemented. And we know, not because we concluded this, but because they admitted it. The people who oppress us operate off of the MAD principle, mutually assured destruction. If I have the capacity, if I have a greater capacity and will to kill you than you have to kill me, then I don't have to listen to anything you say. I don't have to negotiate with you. I don't have to respect your laws. I don't have to respect your sovereignty. I don't have to respect your basic human rights. I can do whatever I want to you. Iraq, Afghanistan, black communities across America. But if you do have equal or greater capacity or will to kill me, then I have to negotiate. Then I have to respect your sovereignty. China, North Korea, Russia, Iran, and up until just a few years ago, Libya, until Gaddafi got stupid and gave up his nukes and his biochemical. Same thing with Saddam. Saddam did disarm, and that's what doomed him. They said they were going to attack Saddam because he had weapons. The only reason they attacked him is because he didn't. And they knew he didn't. Black people, we way too damn comfortable with our little hashtags and guerrilla dab challenges. We're way too comfortable in this country, and we're not safe here. We've never been safe. And I'm not saying we're not safe here, so run to it. There is no sanctuary. I think every black person should at least study guerrilla warfare. Asymmetric warfare. I don't know why there aren't urban militias. Now, my concern is there are a lot of black men running around America, forming these little gun clubs. And in many of the gun clubs, you see they got all this pro-black imagery, pan-African imagery. They're waving red, black, and green flags and marching up and down the streets. Open carry states. Talking about black people and our Second Amendment rights. That's not what I'm talking about. And you'll find if you talk to them, which I have. I talk to a lot of brothers here, and they'll admit. If you ask them, they're very open. You'll find that these brothers that are into gun, I'm not one of these gun cats. I'm not one of these gun cats. I'm not really, the guns they don't hold any special charm for me. I grew up in Missouri. Guns were everywhere all the time. There was never a time, and there was really, I don't know, trigger locks and all that. My great-grandfather, Grandpa Bowie, had this double-barrel shotgun that he had leaned in the corner right by his head. And that gun was cocked and loaded and ready for my entire childhood, as far as I got a memory. We go over, and one thing I always know, Grandma Bowie had cobblers. My grandma Bowie, she had a peach tree, and she go make her cherry and her peach cobblers, and her house always smelled like cobbler and other baked goods and Grandpa's shotgun. I never got a gun safety instruction. Nobody ever told me not to touch that gun. I think that was instinctual. I just knew. You don't mess with nobody's gun. You know, I had an uncle who was a cop. He'd come home, take off his belt with the gun and handcuffs and the whole thing, and just drop it on the dining room table. What? Something to eat. You go visit, you don't touch it. Boy, you don't touch it. Everybody had guns. I remember me and my little homies, we walk around. We used to have this, we all shared a gun. It was, what was it? I don't even know. I think it was a 22 revolver. A little deuce revolver. And we'd walk around, and sometimes we'd go to Swope Park and shoot cans off of logs. We stack up cans and jugs on logs and shoot them off. We never even had the notion. Just guns were everywhere. So the guns hold no special mystique. I know how to use a gun. I know how to maintain a gun. I know how to identify most guns. Some of y'all got some of them video game guns. I don't know what the hell those things are. But you know, I know what I know. But let me tell you, having a gun, as I said Friday, does not make you, most of these groups, these black militant groups, black guerrillas, they even call themselves guerrillas, do not study guerrilla warfare, and they do not move in guerrilla formation, and they do not follow guerrilla protocols, guerrilla ideology, guerrilla culture. They are not guerrillas. They are armed militants. Maybe they're militant. I don't take that away from them. They are militants, but they are not guerrilla. If you study guerrilla fighters, they talk about the guerrillas and aesthetics and aesthetics. They talk about the internal protocols and hierarchies of a guerrilla, and they talk about, more importantly than anything, the mission of a guerrilla. I talked to one of the black men here in Chicago who started one of the first ever black gun clubs in Chicago, who spent decades training black people on how to use guns. And he even consulted and worked on that movie, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. And he said, by and large, when I work with black people, black men and women, on gun training, gun safety, you know, and the key thing in their mind when they think about gun ownership is killing another black person, or having to shoot or defend themselves from another black person, and more likely than not in defense of their property, protecting their property against another black person. And when you look at most black militant organizations like the Nation of Islam, which had, went against the SCLC and SNCC and said, we are for self-defense. Remember Malcolm X said, if the white man sick a dog on you, you kill that dog, and if they put their hands on you, you send them to the graveyard, or you send them to the hospital. Really accurate rhetoric. But when we look at the track record, when we look at the Nation of Body Count, ain't no white devils. It's all black people that they've been intimidating, harming, and even killing. I don't know of any devils. And even when you look at some of the more that I think are worthy of our admiration in our study, the Black Liberation Army, they violated some of the most basic tenets of guerrilla warfare and guerrilla formations. I think that the black culture needs to become a militant culture. And I'm telling you, yeah, I'm that dude. I'm the tree-hugging hippie vegan. I'm anti-violence. But as strongly as I'm anti-violence, I am pro-reality. And these white masses, the white masses in this country, now it's not all white people. And there are a lot of factions, and I talk about it all the time. I have Bro Diallo broadcast. You go to my archives, and you'll see I have everything, the myth of white unity, and I talk about the various factions and divisions within the white community, the white tribes. We don't call them tribes because those words are reserved for the lesser people, the lesser civilized people. So I recognize the divisions. But for those who do have the drive, the tools, the means, the proclivities to engage in open violence, organized violence. I'm not talking about individual mass shooters on either side, whether it's those brothers that went to shot at those cops, like that Chris Donner who waged a one-man war against the NYPD. That is not. We tend to think any black man toting a gun and screaming black rhetoric is a soldier, is a fighter for the people, is a guerrilla. That is not true. In fact, when you go to organize or join a guerrilla formation, even in the Black Panther, the last thing you do is get a gun in your hand. That's the tail end of your development as a guerrilla, as a freedom fighter. In several, you read the biographies of the various Panthers, and they went and they said, basically, went to the Panther office, and I'm like, I'm down. I want to fight. I want to fight these Peckerwoods. I want to fight these pigs. I want to get at these honkies. I want to go at the Ku Klux Klan. And he said, I go into the office expecting them to give me a rifle, and they gave me a stack of books. Because at the root of any guerrilla formation is not the weapons, it's not violence, it's the ideology and the organizational discipline, which all of these militant groups lack. That's where they're deficit. So they have all the guns in the world, and they are not a threat. They are not a threat. That's why you see the Umars and these other people can run around the country talking about white devils and all that stuff, and the government don't even move on them. They might keep tabs on them, but they don't move against them. Look at the black men who were targeted by COINTELPRO and those who were left standing, even though their rhetoric was stronger and more violent than the ones who were taken out. And you'll see what distinguishes those who were deemed a threat by the status quo and those who were deemed anti-status quo but not a threat to the status quo. I'm out of time. And I'm sorry, I hate to do a part 3, but I'm going to open up with guerrilla warfare specific. I want to talk about specific signs on Wednesday, specific signs that the white majority to advance or intensify their aggression against the black community, and specific ways we can organize ourselves to defend ourselves from ongoing white violence and elevations of white violence. This is the Bro Diallo Show, Q4 Radio, AM 1680. Please become a Patreon donor to help keep us on the air. I'm going to do this as long as I'm capable of doing this, but I'll only be able to continue to do this if you help. We've also started the growth season. It's 9 o'clock. I got to go. Q4 Radio. I will see y'all Wednesday morning. Peace.